There's nothing better than finding a book that you can't put down, and if there's one genre that helps me find those books time and time again, it's thrillers. There was a time last year and early this year where all I read was thrillers. It was just the only thing that I ever wanted. I just like put one down, picked another up, put one down, picked another up, and then I went into my romance era, which was fun. But now we're kind of circling back to the thrillers, so I just wanted to kind of go through the ones that I've really loved and give some suggestions, because some of these I had not really heard of until I stumbled upon them. Now, I read a lot of good thrillers and I've read a lot of really bad thrillers, and all of them will promise you the same thing, which is you will never expect the ending, you'll never see it coming, every single one. And there are a select few that will do that, so we're gonna talk about them. I'm just gonna be looking off my Goodreads because I could not be bothered to write up a script for this video. The thriller that I read most recently that really gripped me was That's Not My Name by Megan Lally. This is actually a YA thriller, and it's about a guy who's framed for his girlfriend's disappearance. They think he murdered her, but he's on this quest because he thinks she's still alive and he thinks he can save her. But we're getting kind of a dual POV, so we're also seeing from the perspective of a girl who wakes up on the side of the road and finds herself in a police station, and then her dad comes to pick her up, but things are just seeming a little strange. It is wild. You will not see the ending coming. I thought I knew what was gonna happen, and I thought that it was gonna be predictable, but it was not in any way. And when I tell you I thought about this book for probably a month after I read it. This was in January that I read this book, and I'm still worked up about it. The author did such a good job of keeping us on our toes. I felt like there was something happening in every single chapter. Every single chapter we were discovering something new, something was happening, we were just moving forward, and the pacing was phenomenal. Oh my gosh, if you're gonna read a single thriller this year, read this one, because I want you to just feel my pain. Okay, the next one I'm not quite sure if it's technically defined as a thriller, but in my mind it is. It's called If We Were Villains by Emma Rio. It's more of a, people would probably say it's a dark academia novel if you're into that genre, but I think it's more of a thriller because we have the tension of someone dies and then we're trying to figure out if the murder happened the way that we think the murder happened, if that makes sense. And this is a really cool thing that the author did, was we're seeing it from the perspective of one of the friends from the future as he's getting out of prison, because he is the one who took the fall for this murder. So in our minds, we're thinking, did he actually do it? Is that what actually happened? And trying to figure out what goes on behind the scenes. So it's a crazy story. I loved the plot. The pacing is a little bit slow at the beginning, so I will say that if you're looking for something that's gonna grip you right away, you might have to give this novel a little bit more time, but if you're willing to work through that, I think it's worth it. I think the characters are really well done and the tension is just so gripping. I think you'll really enjoy it. I don't give a lot of books 5 stars, but this next book I would give 6 or 7 or 8 stars or 10 stars if I could, because I flew through this book. I think I read this book in the span of like 24 hours. I just could not bring myself to close the book, and it's the only one left by Riley Sager. This is an insane story about a woman who is an elderly caretaker, and she goes to take care of this woman who is a local town legend. Everyone believes that she killed her whole family. So kind of brutal. It kept me so invested from start to finish, and there were a lot of points where I felt like the character wasn't super likable because there were just aspects to the things that she did that made me feel like weren't super believable. Like in a lot of thrillers where you want to scream at them to just get out, and she decided to stay. But at the same time, I think if I were in her situation, you know, maybe she's just paranoid because of the local legends and she wants to give this woman the benefit of the doubt because it was never proven that she's the one who killed her family. There are some paranormal elements to it. Paranormal. So I don't know if that's something that you enjoy. I thought it was an interesting addition to the whole story and made everything feel a little bit spooky. One thing I will say though, the ending is almost too unbelievable for me, but I would still give this book 5 stars every single day because I just could not stop reading it, and everyone that I've recommended it to has loved it and been obsessed with it. So I think it's worth your time. The next book I would recommend is called In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. This book is about 6 friends who go back to their alma mater for their college reunion, and they're kind of forced to confront a murder that happened while they were still in school. And the thing about this book is the characters are all unlikable. Even the one whose perspective, whose POV we were seeing, I did not like her. I just felt like the decisions and the choices that the characters were making were just, it felt like they were still in a frat house or a sorority and they were just acting like teenagers a lot. But maybe their unresolved trauma is just keeping them there. I don't know. And I think a lot of what the author was trying to say is that there isn't always a cut and dry good guy or bad guy. Sometimes there's just a lot of bad people and broken and messed up people that are involved in messy and horrible things. So if that sounds like a fun read to you, maybe you'll like this book. I just remember reading this and thinking that I knew what was gonna happen, and I did not know what was gonna happen. Also, the little college reunion, alma mater moments in between the craziness of the tension and the solving the murder that was going on, I thought those were really fun, and it just made me think of my college days. So nice little ambiance and environment added to a really insane story. Okay, let's talk about Alex Michaelides, because I've read 3 of his books and I really enjoyed 2 of them, and I'll just talk a little bit about the last one. The first one I want to talk about is The Maidens. This is a book about a group therapist whose niece goes to Cambridge, and in the niece's group of friends, one of the girls is murdered on campus. So she goes to Cambridge to help try and be there for her niece, but she gets wrapped up in solving the murder, and she's convinced that this one professor is the one who did it. So the whole story is basically her trying to prove that he did kill this girl. This was one of Alex Michaelides' best books in terms of ambiance, in my opinion. He built this world of Cambridge so well. I felt like I was there. I felt like I knew the faculty, I knew the students, and I felt like I could just walk through these cobblestone pathways and go to class. That was probably my favorite thing about this novel. It was definitely twisty and it had all the fun, spooky elements to it. The ending I definitely didn't see coming, but for some reason I didn't feel completely satisfied with the ending. I thought it was really good and really well done, and I really enjoyed it. But the way the author wrapped it up, I just felt like maybe there was a different solution that I was hoping for, and I didn't really get that, but we can't always get what we want. Next, The Silent Patient. That is a book that I was obsessed with. This is a story about a therapist who is actually connected to the group therapist that was in The Maidens, which is a really interesting thing that the author does. He kind of connects all his books. In The Silent Patient, it's about this therapist who is trying to get this woman who supposedly killed her husband and has not said a word since to open up to him. Oh my gosh, this book, you guys, the ending, it was mind-blowing. I was not expecting it at all. I just like, my jaw was on the floor. It was insane. That one didn't have the ambiance and the vibes that The Maiden had, but the biggest thing that had me hooked was I did not see the end coming at all, and I never would have guessed that that's what would have happened. Okay, and the third book by Alex Michaelides that I read this year, actually like 2 days ago, is The Fury. This is his newest book, and while I thought he did a great job, and I think he's a phenomenal author, I love his writing, I just felt like the perspective, the character whose perspective the whole book was written in, I didn't connect with them, and I didn't feel like I cared about any of the characters. Maybe one, no, I just didn't really care about them. And when you don't really care about them, it's like someone's gonna die and that sucks. And then another thing was, even though we're seeing it from this person's perspective, somehow he was omniscient and he could see what was going on in other rooms where he wasn't even present, and he could understand the intentions of other people that he didn't even talk to in the moment. So it just felt like a lot of disbelief to have to suspend. And this story had so much going for it. It's on a Greek island. It's this movie star who's retired and she's getting together with a close group of friends. It kind of felt like maybe it'd be a bit like Glass Onion, the Knives Out mystery. And it just didn't deliver for me. I still really like Alex Michaelides. Okay, I talked about Riley Sager before, but I want to talk about his book, Lock Every Door. Oh my gosh. This book is crazy. It's about a girl who is apartment sitting in this very wealthy, well-to-do area, but the main character is super broke and she just needs somewhere to stay. So she takes the job, and then really weird things start happening. She meets this girl who tells her that the apartment is maybe not what it seems, and then the next day the girl vanishes. I think my favorite thing about this book was that it feels so claustrophobic. Somehow he made this giant, wealthy, beautiful apartment feel like you could not escape. That is just so brilliant, and it was such a good way to make us feel like the character felt in that moment. There were some hidden clues that you find throughout the book, and it's just fun. It's just some good spooky fun. And I promise you, you will most likely not see the ending coming unless it gets spoiled. But probably not. This is the only clue I'll give you about the ending. The most insane thing about it, if you don't want any clues, just don't watch this. It is more people involved than you would expect. That's all I'm gonna say. That's my hint. Those are all the thriller books I would recommend to you that kept me on the edge of my seat and I did not see the ending coming. If you want to hear about books that I did not like, I don't know why you would want to know that, but it could be a fun video. So if you want to just hear me rant about horrible thriller books, I can do that too. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I don't know if she's gonna leave. I think she might just stay here. Ollie, can you move? Can you move, please?